Why are we insisting on the word happiness? Because we're thinking long-term here. We're thinking about a revolution in the way people think about the good life. A revolution in terms of the way people think and pursue life's ultimate currency. Happiness. Hello, everyone, and welcome. It's so wonderful to see you here today, this afternoon in New Jersey, afternoon in Latin America, evening in Europe, middle of the night in Asia. Thank you for staying up this late. And here's what we're going to do today. So I'm going to start by sharing just some thoughts about resilience in difficult times, in uncertain times, in other words, today. And then I will share a short video by Yuval Kutz, who's the president of the Happiness Studies Academy, giving you more details, information about the certificate program, which is a year-long program. And then Yuval is going to join us live, and he and I are going to respond to your questions. Any questions about the certificate program, about our master's program, about the topic that I'm going to speak about now, happiness in uncertain or resilience in difficult, challenging times, or any other question that you have relating even tangentially to happiness, resilience, well-being. So let me begin by reflecting on the place, the purpose of the field of happiness studies during these uncertain times. You see, it's not trivial that today we need to even be talking about happiness. You know, there's war going on. We've just semi-emerged from a pandemic that devastated many people, devastated the economy, relationships. And can we really talk about happiness? You know, during COVID, one of my friends said to me, Tal, shouldn't we quarantine happiness? At least for a while. And my answer then, as it is today, is absolutely not. The question is why? Why is the study of happiness so important? And again, I would argue more important than ever during these times. The answer, well, there are two answers that I will address. The first one, I want to go back to the very beginning of the field of positive psychology, the science of happiness, and to the findings by people like Martin Seligman, Christopher Peterson, Sonia Lubomirsky, Barbara Fredrickson, and others. What they found was the following. You see, there's a range of emotions, and let's call this point, the middle point, the 0 point. On one side, you have painful emotions, people refer to as negative emotions, like sadness or anger or frustration or anxiety or envy. This is negative emotions on this side. On the other side, positive emotions or pleasurable emotions, as I would call them. Pleasurable emotions like joy and love and fun and excitement and so on. So we have this continuum with the pleasurable emotions on one side, the painful emotions on the other. The assumption by most people, and I must say also by some of the founders of the field of happiness studies, was that positive psychology as a field will focus on the side, on the pleasurable, on the joy, love, fun, excitement, and so on. And we'll leave the other emotions, sadness, anxiety, frustration, to traditional psychology that has largely, throughout its history, focused on depression and anxiety and anger and hate and stereotyping and so on, and racism. So let's leave that these emotions to traditional psychology, and we, the positive psychologists, those who study happiness, will focus on the other side, which really has been neglected. So if that indeed was the case, that positive psychology, the science of happiness, only focuses on this side, that's okay, that's good, that's important. Why is it important? Because just getting rid of the negative, just overcoming depression, just getting rid of anxiety, overcoming it, that in and of itself does not make us happy or joyful. And that for many people was the role of positive psychology, the science of happiness, to build on whatever comes from the zero to the positive side. And then something else was discovered through research. And that was something very simple and meaningful. And that is that when you increase levels of well-being, when you focus on cultivating joy, when you focus on people's strengths, when you get people to be more playful, to have more fun, it doesn't just contribute to the positive side of the continuum. It also helps us better deal with the negatives. It also actually helps us deal with anxiety and with depression. And it actually reduces envy or hate, makes us more open, less susceptible to stereotyping, racism. In other words, focusing on well-being, focusing on happiness, focusing on the positive doesn't just help us to go more positive, it also helps us better deal with the negative. And this is important, and it makes us more resilient. In other words, it's preventative. So I'm better able to deal with hardships and difficulties and uncertainty that inevitably comes our way. I'm better able to deal with it if I cultivate my strength and focus on bringing more joy and playfulness to my life. So this is one reason why focusing on the positive, whether it's joy or gratitude or strengths or love, focusing on these things doesn't just help us become happier, it also helps us to better deal with difficulties and hardships. It makes us more resilient. Now, what does more resilient actually mean? It doesn't mean we don't experience sadness. It doesn't mean we never reside on this side of the continuum, on the negative. What becoming more resilient simply means is that we have a stronger psychological immune system. Now, what does a strong immune system mean? It doesn't mean we don't get sick. It simply means we get sick less often. And when we do get sick, we recover more promptly. So what cultivating the positive does, what studying positive psychology or happiness or well-being does is, yes, it makes us happier. And it also makes us more resilient, better able to deal with hardships. So that's one reason why positive psychology, the science of happiness, matters in difficult and uncertain times. Then there's another reason for it. And this has to do with the concept that I've been thinking about and talking about a lot over the past 3 years or so. I thought about it or adopted it during COVID. This is a concept that was actually introduced by a Lebanese scholar, professor at NYU today, Nassim Taleb. Nassim Taleb introduced us to the idea, the concept of anti-fragility. 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 Now, what's anti-fragility? I'm going to write it in the chat so you have it in front of you. Anti-fragility. And anti-fragility is essentially the opposite of fragility. Specifically, what it is what I describe as resilience 2.0. So resilience 1.0 is actually a term that comes from engineering, and it refers to the ability of certain material to recover its original form. Specifically, you take a piece of rubber, you squish it, you put pressure on it. Subsequently, you let go, it goes back to where it was before. It's resilient. Or you take a ball, you drop it. If it's resilient, it bounces back up. This is why we talk about resilient individuals as bouncing back. Now, resilience 2.0, anti-fragility, takes this idea a step further. Specifically, you take certain material, you squish it, you put pressure, stress on it. You let go. If it's resilient, 1.0, it goes back to where it was before. If it's anti-fragile, resilience 2.0, it actually grows bigger, stronger, better. Or a ball, you drop it. If it's resilient, it bounces back up to where it was before. If it's anti-fragile, resilience 2.0, it bounces back higher. Now, it turns out that there are anti-fragile systems all around us and even within us. And I want to share two examples with you. The first example is physiological, our muscles. You go to the gym, you lift weights, you are stressing your muscles. Now, what happens when, as a result of this stress, you do it for a week, a month, 3 months, and you actually grow bigger, stronger, healthier as a result of the stress that you're putting on your muscles? In other words, we are an anti-fragile system, physiologically. And psychologically, it turns out. So, I often ask students in my class, when I teach in college, most of my students are psychology majors, not all, but most. I ask them the following question. I say to them, put your hand up if you know what PTSD is. PTSD. Now, most people put their hands up. They've studied it in Introduction to Psychology. They've read about it in the newspaper. They know what PTSD is. Post-traumatic stress disorder. And then they put their hands down, and I ask them a second question. I'd like you to put your hand up, I tell them, if you know what PTG is. Now, hardly any hand goes up. And again, these are psychology majors, by and large. Hardly any hand goes up. PTG stands for post-traumatic growth. Most people have heard of PTSD. Hardly anyone has heard of PTG. PTSD is fragility, breaking down as a result of trauma. PTG, post-traumatic growth, is anti-fragility, is growing as a result of trauma. Now listen to this. Post-traumatic growth is potentially twice as likely as post-traumatic stress disorder. In general, going through difficult times, hardships, challenges, more often than not, potentially will lead to growth as opposed to breakdown, to anti-fragility rather than to fragility. If, and here is the important point, if, first of all, we know that it's possible. We know that it is in the realm of possibilities to grow from hardship. We know about PTG or anti-fragility or resilience 2.0. merely knowing about it makes it more likely to happen. And remember, most people do not know about it. Second, there are certain conditions that we can put in place that will significantly increase the likelihood that we'll experience it. Now, most people don't know that PTG is possible. Most people certainly don't know what conditions to put in place in order to increase the likelihood that they will grow from hardship, that it will become anti-fragile. And here lies the importance of the science of happiness in difficult times, in uncertain times, in challenging times, in traumatic times. And we're going through all those times right now, not just if we're in war zones. Also, if we are second circle removed from those difficulties and hardships. For observers. And this is why the science of happiness is more important than ever. In order to fortify us, to strengthen us, to help us become more anti-fragile, so that we become more resilient, better able to deal with the difficulties and hardships, so that we become more anti-fragile, that we may even grow from these difficulties and hardships. And in our programs, what we do is we introduce a framework, which I'll very briefly describe momentarily. We introduce a framework that provides us with an understanding of precisely what these conditions are that you can put in place to become more anti-fragile, that you can help your child introducing their lives to become more anti-fragile, that you can help your organization or community, family, the collective, introduce these ideas so that you can become more anti-fragile and grow from hardship and better able to deal with uncertain times, challenging experiences. So what is this framework? And again, I'm just very, very briefly going to go into it. We call it the SPIRE model of happiness. SPIRE, S-P-I-R-E, is an acronym standing for the following. The S is about spiritual well-being. This is primarily about finding a sense of meaning and purpose. It is about also being present, being mindful, finding meaning and purpose, and or being mindful, being present. These are two ways that we significantly, through them, increase our anti-fragility as well as happiness levels. In other words, better able to deal with both sides of that continuum. So that's spiritual well-being. Then there is physical well-being, the P of SPIRE. Physical well-being is about exercise and nutrition and rest and recovery, which are critical elements for becoming anti-fragile and for happiness in general. Then there is intellectual well-being, the I of SPIRE. This is where curiosity, asking questions, comes in. You know that curiosity makes us happier. Asking questions actually makes us more successful. No big surprise here. And it actually helps us live longer. So while curiosity kills the cat, it lengthens human lifespan. Studying, deeply engaging with text or with a work of art or with nature actually contributes to our overall happiness levels, actually makes us tougher, more resilient, more anti-fragile. So we have the spiritual, the physical, and the intellectual. The R of SPIRE stands for relational well-being. Number one predictor of happiness, number one generator of anti-fragility. People who have a social network friends. And it could be one friend or two friends, or it could be, if they're more extroverted, 50 friends. Actually, the number doesn't matter. But if they have friends that they can turn to, someone they can share with, that makes them a great deal happier and more resilient. And we have a lot of research showing that, though we knew it without research as well. 400 years ago, Francis Bacon said, friendship doubles joy and cuts grief in half. Francis Bacon, friendship doubles joy and cuts grief in half. And then within relational well-being, we have kindness and generosity and giving and listening and helping. These are all ways that, of course, help other people make the world a better place. And they also strengthen us. They also contribute to our happiness. And finally, the E of SPIRE is emotional well-being. And this is about learning to accept, embrace painful emotions, which are inevitable. After you go through the year-long certificate program, or even 2 years master's program, you will still experience painful emotions. I promise you, they won't go away. However, you learn to better deal with them, handle them. Your immune system will be stronger, which means you'll experience fewer painful emotions. And when you do, you will be able to recover more promptly. That's what a strong immune system means. That's what being resilient means. And then it's also about cultivating pleasurable emotions like joy, like love, like gratitude. So here you have the SPIRE elements: spiritual, physical, intellectual, and relational, and emotional well-being. Cultivating any of them significantly increases the likelihood that we will be anti-fragile, that we will grow from hardship, that we'll be more resilient, better able to deal with uncertainties and challenges and difficulties that may come our way. And in addition to making us more resilient, more anti-fragile, they also increase our overall levels of happiness. Okay, so I'm going to stop here. I do hope to hear more questions, whether it's about this or any other topic somewhat related to happiness. I'll be happy to answer your questions. It's actually my favorite topic in the world, as you can imagine. But before we go to your questions, I'd like to share a quick video that where Yuval Kutz, the president of the Happiness Studies Academy, presents the certificate in Happiness Studies, again, in just an overview and outline of what you can expect from this, this certificate. So here we go.
Hi, everyone. The Certificate in Happiness Studies is a year-long program. The program is offered in English, Spanish, Portuguese, Japanese, Chinese, and Hebrew. It is composed of 2 parts, both about the same length. The first is called Introduction to Happiness Studies, and the second is called Facilitating Happiness. While the first part focuses on theory, although it has some practice in it, the second part relies more about applied techniques, although it has some theory in it. This is an interdisciplinary journey in which we will learn the relationship between not just positive psychology, but also literature, art, science, and other fields related to happiness. The entire program has a weekly structure with the following components. First of all students in the same cohort starts off at the same day. And every week you receive access to 4 15 minutes pre-recorded lectures. Altogether, 1 hour. All of the lectures are delivered by Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar. You can watch these lectures at your convenience. It's online, and they will always be available for you to go back and watch again. Every week, students are invited to join a 1-hour live webinar with Tal, in which they can discuss happiness, the topics of the course, and their personal lives directly with Tal. Last but not least, all students get access to their personal life journal. The life journal is a weekly follow-up to the lessons with additional exercises, extra readings, videos, journaling, meditations, yoga, and much more. You get lifetime access to this life journal, which holds the most comprehensive bibliography of research and material about happiness out there today. Actually, you're getting lifetime access to us as well. As HSA alums, you will get your Certified Happiness Trainer certificate, invitations to our annual gatherings, support from HSA faculty and the entire community. It is extremely important for us to give you all the tools needed to pursue a career and work in this field. I would like to thank you for taking the time today and for the interest you're showing in this program.
Okay, and without further ado, I would like to call on Yuval, co-founder of the Happiness Studies Academy. Hello, Yuval.
Hi, Tal. Always embarrassing to see this video time and time again. It's always embarrassing to see yourself in video. Thank you all for joining. Thank you for taking the time being with us today. Super excited because the 18 cohort is starting tomorrow. And we are really looking forward to that. I know that we have a wonderful group who already joined, and hopefully you will join us as well. And we'll start the journey together tomorrow. You're in for a treat, that's for sure. We've done it 18 times before for the past 5.5 years. So we're looking forward to that. We have, I can tell you, as you saw in the chat at the beginning, people from all over the world joining this webinar the same way. People from all over the world are actually joining the certificate program. Also in the upcoming cohort tomorrow, we have students from numerous countries. I lost connection, or
No, you're back. You're back, Yuval.
okay, sorry. And all in the Happiness Studies Academy, we have 90 students. 90, sorry, 90. I'm having some technical difficulties on my side. You don't see it. Okay, I'm taking care of that. Anyway, we have students from more than 90 countries taking the certificate program. Tali will start with some questions I have to on my side.
All right, so here is how it's going to work. If you have a question, you put your hand up. The way you do it is you go to, what is it? To reactions, and then you just click exactly on the hand, and we will call on you. In addition, Yuval is also going to be scanning the chats if there are any questions there. Would love to hear from you directly. And if when you speak, if you can put your camera on, that would be great. You don't have to. All right, let's take the first question from Maria. Maria, yes, thank you. I cannot hear you. We cannot hear you. Maria, I can see you now, but cannot hear you. All right, we'll come back to you, Maria, in a few minutes. Nikki Jones.
Hi.
Hi.
I have two related questions. So I live with a couple of chronic health conditions that can be pretty debilitating at times. My first question is personal. I'm just curious about, like, I'm always contemplating the question, can I really feel happy when my physical body feels so terrible? So I'm interested in what you think about that. And also, I'm interested in the master's program, and I'm wondering about, like, the workload. Like, I really think that I can do the 20 hours a week. I think that that's something that my body can handle, but I'm a little bit worried about, like, timing of assignments and such, because, for example, if something was like assigned on a Friday and I had to have it in by like Monday or something like that, if my body wasn't able to do it in that timing, I'd be worried about like getting things in on time. Or is there more flexibility around that? Because I know I can do the work and I know I can like get it done like within the timing of the course, but I'm just worried about like if there's like exact dates, because I can't always rely on my body.
Good. Thank you, Nikki. Thank you for both questions. So let me first address the first one. I mean, is it possible to be happy, you ask, when you're in pain? So, you know, before everything, you know, the key here is, of course, you know, no big insight here, but of course, to do everything you can to alleviate the pain. And, you know, there are, of course, you know, pain management medicine is developing literally by the day. I've been following some of the research being done there. So hopefully things will get better on that front. However, in the context of happiness, you know, many people ask me, especially after they hear my story, where I started off 30 years ago in this field because I was miserable. And they asked me, so Tal, are you finally happy today? 30 years you've been studying this, teaching it, writing about it, researching. Are you finally happy? And my answer to that is that I really don't know how to answer this question, because I don't think there is a point at which one becomes happy. In other words, it's not a binary 0-1. You know, one day you're unhappy, the next day you are. Rather, it's a continuum. So I can certainly say today that I am happier, a lot happier than I was 30 years ago. But you can be sure that I hope that 5 years from now, I'll be happier than I am today. Again, with all the ups and the downs of any life. I hope that the trajectory of these ups and downs will be a positive trajectory. In other words, I'm happier than I was. Am I happy or not? I don't really know. And the same applies, Nikki, to you. I don't know what it means to be happy. I really don't. Again, because I don't think there is that point before which and after which. But can the signs of happiness make you happier? Absolutely. That is its reason for being. So going through the certificate program or the master's program, you will become happier. Will it alleviate entirely the physical discomfort that you're experiencing by itself? Probably not. It will help because there is a mind-body connection, of course. But it's not a panacea. It's not a solve-all. But yes, so the answer to that, will it make me happier? The answer is absolutely yes. To your second question. So here lies one of the major differences between the certificate program and the master's program. And that's actually two differences. One is the time investment. You know, the master's would be, 10, 15, maybe some weeks as high as 20. Rarely, but sometimes. The certificate program is minimum 3 hours. Can also be 8, but you can also get by very well with 3. And when I say get by, I mean you can return to material that you go through a year later because you have access to this for life, essentially. And the second big difference, when it comes to the master's degree, there are very strict timetables. There's a semester, and you have to hand in, because, we are constrained by it, by the university. We have to hand in your, evaluations at specific times, which means you have to get it in before. With the certificate program, you do it at your own pace. And we have students just now recently graduated after, what was it, Yuval, 3 years doing the certificate. So they took their time, and that's fine. The certificate and the master's degree, they're for you, not for anyone else. Now, having said that, there is some flexibility within the MA. So, the MA, we have most of our students are working. So, a student goes through a hell week at work, and, they need an extension or some flexibility. We give as much as we can, but there isn't the kind of flexibility that exists in the certificate program. We've had, it's a 2-year journey, the master's degree. We've had students that, got sick, whether it's COVID or worse during those 2 years. Or they had good things happen to them. A child got married, or they went on a honeymoon. Yeah, of course, there are dispensations and flexibility on our part. Again, our goal is that it's the best possible journey for you. Within the master's, we have a few more constraints than within the certificate.
Also, I think important to add that the content of the certificate is included within the master's program. Actually, the certificate program is comprised of 2 courses, while the master's is 8 courses. 2 of them are the certificate program courses. So, in fact, the certificate program is kind of a derivative of the MA program.
I guess
Nikki, you wanted to, yeah.
Yeah, what I wanted to kind of ask is like, how much notice are you given when something is due, or like when you have an assignment? Because I think I could do it in over the course of a couple of weeks or a week. I could probably find the time where I felt well enough to do it. It's just if something only had a couple of days or something, and I'm having a bad couple of days, then that wouldn't work.
You get it a week in advance.
Okay.
And we had some students who said, I'm going on, long vacation with my family. Can I have it 3 weeks in advance? And we gave it. That's not a problem. I mean, we have the content. We're obviously ahead of the students, so we can send you the assignments, as early as you would need them, essentially.
Okay, that would be helpful. Thank you very much for your help.
Thank you, Nikki. Thank you.
Now, before we take another hand, maybe you can relate to a few questions in the chat. One of them is, how does SPIRE relate or is applied to organizations and communities?
Good. Great question. You see, SPIRE originally was created to, the way my colleagues and I conceived of it was as a model of happiness. And then throughout the research and the evolution of the field, both of positive psychology and happiness studies, we realized that it actually applies as much, again, not almost, but exactly as much to resilience and to anti-fragility. And in the same way, you can take SPIRE and apply it to the individual, to you. You can apply it to your child, family, and you can apply it to an organization. In fact, we have a few students who went through the certificate program and are now going through it for the second time. Why? To reinforce the material, and also because the second time around, they want to focus on a different group or different beneficiaries. So the first time they went through it because they really wanted to focus on themselves. They weren't going through a good period in their lives. They wanted to become happier. They went through and they applied the SPIRE primarily to themselves. Now that they're going over it again, they're focusing primarily, not only, but primarily on how can I apply it as a manager in my company? Or how can I apply it as a therapist or a coach in my practice? So the question is, where do you want to apply it? And then just focus on that. Because the SPIRE model is very flexible. It's transportable. from the individual to the group, from home to work, from happiness to resilience. It can be applied in numerous different ways and places.
I think that answers another, already answers another question in the chat, which was what is the proposed professional usage for the certificate? At least covers part of it. There's way more. This field of happiness studies is a growing field that has numerous applications to it, whether it's in business, NGOs. You can conduct. I can tell you what our students are doing. Some of them are writing books and conducting workshops and creating happiness at work endeavors, and working with children and in schools, and each student really taking it to his, adding those tools to his own arsenal and using it with his other tools in any way they see fit.
Yeah. Yuval, as Yuval mentioned in the video, we meet live once a week for 90 minutes webinar. And just this week, so Thursday, last week, I spoke to our students about my experience in a conference. I was in Africa teaching at a conference on women's leadership. And this is a conference that I go to every year. And I've been going to this conference, and it's in different places around the world, for the past 14 years. And what I notice is a significant change between the time I started attending the conference with managers, mostly women managers are there. And as they say, we also invite enlightened men. But it's mostly women there. And I'm noticing the difference between in how receptive managers are, and whether they are in Africa or Europe or the Americas or Asia. There is so much more openness to the field of happiness studies as being relevant to the organization. And it reminds me a little bit of the, the trajectory of yoga or meditation. 30, 40 years ago, you were a yogi, you did meditation. Wow, you must be weird. Today, everyone does it. Why? For various reasons. First of all, time heals, so people have gotten used to it. But second, because of the research on yoga and meditation that shows what it actually does to our brains, that shows how important and valuable it is. And it's the same with the field of happiness studies. The research coming out is literally mind-boggling in terms of the impact that it has, not just on your well-being, but also on your productivity, on your creativity, on the success of you as an individual, of a child in school, and of an organization and profitability. So there's much more openness towards this field in different domains, in different professions.
What time will the live webinars take place? Eastern time. So usually all the live webinars, almost always, we are doing them on Thursdays. Since we are serving the entire globe, so 1 week it is convenient for half the globe, and the other week it's convenient for the other half. Eastern time, I think. Tal, do you know exactly the Eastern time?
Yes.
Hours?
So again, Eastern Standard Time, New York time, it's either 8 a.m. or 2 p.m. Central European would be, I guess, five hours later, I think. China, 12 hours later.
What if I do the certificate program and after I decide I wanted to do the full master's program? Does it the work counts toward the master's? Yes and no. Almost 100% yes, but I will explain. The work that you're doing for the certificate program, meaning that you've gone through the lectures and you saw all the materials of the certificate program, then by all means, when you get to that in the master's program, it will be way easier for you, or you don't have to watch all the lectures again. You already watched them. The difference is that during the certificate program, you are not obligated to submit any papers for grading. While you reach those courses within the master's, then you will need to submit papers for grading. So this is the difference between the certificate moving from the certificate to the master's. Another very important thing you need to remember that when you pay for the certificate program, everything that you paid for the certificate will be deducted from the price you will be asked to pay for the master's. So actually, in that regard, it counts 100%. You will not pay twice, of course. Once you paid for the certificate, you already paid for 2 courses out of the 8 courses of the master's. What organization is the certificate certified by? Well, as a certificate program, it's certified by Happiness Studies Academy. This is the organization that we're talking from right now. Additionally, the certificate program is also offered by universities in the United States as certificate program, and also other bodies worldwide. It is also accredited by the ICF, International Coaching Federation for Continuing Education. And basically, that's it. Where do you meet up, Tal?
And Yuval, let me just add to it. The master's program is, of course, accredited by the highest authority, which is called the Middle States. It's the master's degree is done in conjunction with Centenary University, and the accreditation body is the same accreditation body as Rutgers University and Princeton University. In other words, accredited and by the highest authority.
Where do you meet up? Well, we have the Zoom live meetings that we are having weekly, on a weekly basis, of course. In addition to that, we have what we call the ABC meetings, which is the ABC is the Alumni and Business Club that was formed by the community, by the students, by the graduates. And Tal travels quite a lot, and in every major city that Tal arrives, we have a lot of students around the vicinity of his location. So we have many get-togethers throughout the year with Tal. Additionally, twice a year we have a retreat where we meet our community for usually 3 nights, always in different locations. Last retreat was in Cartagena, Colombia. Before that, we were in Shanghai, Acumal, Mexico, Miami, Florida, Lake Como, Italy. And actually, the next retreat will be in a small suburb of New York, New Jersey, in May 1 is our next retreat, May 1 to May 4.
And I want to say something, Yuval, about these retreats.
Well.
And if you've heard me speak before, you've heard me say this before. Look, the content, the material that you will learn as part of the certificate program or the master's program is great. I mean, how can it not be when you're, reading Aristotle and Lao Tzu and Marianne Evans and Helen Keller and Sonia Lubomirsky and Marty Seligman? I mean, it's the best material out there on the topic of happiness. So the material is great, but that's not the most important part of the certificate in happiness studies. The most important part is the community. Now, as I mentioned earlier, #1 predictor of happiness, quality time you spend with people you care about and who care about you. It's the social support. The HSA community is so incredibly supportive. It's like-minded, like-hearted people from literally all over the world getting together with an aim of increasing levels of happiness, their own happiness levels and global happiness levels. And those retreats, those get-togethers are very special. And, so we've been, going for, 5 years. They've always been great. They've been especially important during times when we need to be anti-fragile or resilient, when that social support is so very important, beyond the fact that they're fun and enjoyable and, again, the best vacation in town. So, so the community aspect is central to the whole HSA certificate and, of course, master's experience. And it's a lifelong community, because you're, once you join, you're a member for life unless you decide to leave. We don't keep you here against your own accord.
We had a few hands up before, but I don't see them now. So if you are still want to go live, please raise your hand. I'm currently an international school teacher, but would like to transition to a more counselor and life coach. Would this certificate be able to provide opportunities for that? Absolutely. This certificate is exactly created and crafted for that. So you have the tools to work with people, and you can work in the field with the tools that you will get from the certificate program, whether it's in any area that you choose around the topics of happiness, well-being, positive psychology, etc.
Yuval, there is a question here of someone who had her hand up, and she said she lowered it. I'm very excited to start tomorrow. I would like to know if there are any breaks throughout the year, like Easter, summer, etc. So for the certificate program, you take a break when you want to. Again, we've constructed it so that it's a year. But if you take a week off or 2 weeks off, you just pick up where you left off. It's not like there is a mandate saying that you have to complete this in exactly a year. So you take off any time that you want. When it comes to the master's degree, again, we go with the academic calendar, where there are, of course, breaks for the main holidays in the United States, because we're working with an North American university.
How can you do a master's without an undergraduate? Well, you can't. One of the prerequisites for of course, for the master's degree is to have an accredited BA in any subject, but an accredited BA.
And the reason why, first of all, you need a BA for a master's degree, but many people ask us, don't you need a psychology BA in order to get into the master's? And the answer is no. You can have a BA in history or a BA in engineering, or you can have an MA in any time. And we have students with PhDs taking our master's degree. The reason why we're not particular, why we don't care what topic you studied, is because happiness studies is an interdisciplinary study. And here lies an important difference between happiness studies and positive psychology. While positive psychology looks at the psychology of happiness, happiness studies draws on philosophy. I mentioned Aristotle and Lao Tzu. It draws on literature. I mentioned Marianne Evans, the 19th century British writer. It draws on films, religion, history, economics, anthropology, neuroscience. It's an interdisciplinary field. And therefore, there isn't really a need for you to have a foundation in one particular field of study before you start the master's. Any foundation works. Yuval, we have 2 hands up. Shall we?
Please take another hand.
Yeah, Emily.
Hi, thank you. So I understand I'm interested in the certificate program, probably most likely in the future, but if any live portions when someone's working, they're available to view. That stuff is all available, and that's also like a lifetime access.
Exactly right. Exactly right. And by the way, that's both for the master's and the certificate. So we encourage you to attend, of course, the live webinars, and that's part of a community that we're creating, but it's absolutely not necessary. And there are people who join, for 4 weeks straight, and then, they don't join for 2 months, or they come every week. It's totally up to you. Some people watch it, it's their Sunday viewing. They watch it, 3 days later. For the masters, while you don't have to attend live, you have to watch it. That's a prerequisite, because there are actual assignments associated with the live webinar.
Thank
But
you.
again, you can do it at your own time and at leisure. You can even do it at 1.5 speed if you don't have the full 90 minutes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Maybe take another hand.
Yeah. Deborah.
Hi.
Hey.
Tal, how can we measure happiness in companies? Because normally when I talk with CEOs or executive, they connect happiness with philanthropy. It's a very tough topic to talk about with them.
Very good. So first of all, Deborah, and this is something that I do emphasize to our students, of course, if you feel or believe or know that calling it something else would be more helpful, would open more doors, or would garner less resistance, then call it something else. Many people, and for a long time, before my name became associated with the happiness, I actually used the term job satisfaction. I want to measure job satisfaction. I didn't call it happiness. Essentially, you're measuring the same thing. These questionnaires, the correlation, the job satisfaction questionnaire or happiness at work questionnaire, which is how you would measure, they are very similar. They measure very similar things. Just like when people measure well-being as opposed to, or life satisfaction, they're measuring very similar constructs to happiness. But first, find the construct that works for you, and more importantly, works for your client, because you're there to serve them. Second, there are many questionnaires out there. Now, if you really want to go deep, measure the brain. We actually have measurements today that are not that expensive, that most of us can afford to buy, an EEG measurement or heart rate variability. So, already now some watches have some of the measures that also evaluate psychological well-being. And these things are changing literally as we speak. So soon, psychologists, coaches are going to rely much more on physiological measures than they do today. Today, it's still mostly questionnaires. That is the go-to method of measurement. And the questionnaires, there are plenty. The key here is to use a questionnaire that has been validated, a questionnaire that really is measuring what it says it's measuring. In other words, that there was research on. Because, I can come up with a questionnaire right now and, hand it to you and it will look great. But if it hasn't been validated, then, maybe it's measuring something different, and maybe you're not seeing something. So that's why it's important to use evidence-based scales, evidence-based questionnaires, which is, of course, what our students, what our alums use. And this is where the community is so powerful. So, if you want to go to an organization, you just post, and then you'll get, a dozen responses sharing with you what they used in their organization and whether it worked. And of course, I'm always available to provide suggestions as to what to use. But the issue of measurement is very important, because this is really what distinguishes self-help from evidence-based scientific interventions.
One of the questions in the chat was, is there any data that either program leads to greater happiness among the students. Well, we are gathering that data about the specific program right now, actually. We are conducting a research on the certificate program. Having said that, all of the intervention and all of the material and all of the learnings within the certificate program and within the masters, of course, are scientifically proven. We will not teach anything that does not have support by rigorous research behind it, or that doesn't have a practical implication to it as well. So the content itself, yes, supported by data. The entire certificate as a program as a whole is currently being researched right now. How many
Yes, so
times does the MA open a year? And relate that to another question. Can you start with a certificate and then move to the master's? Well, the certificate opens 3 times a year: February, June, and October. We are now talking about the February cohort that actually starts tomorrow. All of the information about the certificate program and the master's program are on our website, www.happinessstudies.academy, and you will find everything there. We will send you an email after this webinar with all of the information as well. So if you cannot meet the April next MA, then probably you will wait another year for the next MA. So the MA opens once a year, the certificate almost once a year, the certificate opens 3 times a year. So if you can start with a certificate and then move on to the master, by all means, you can do that. It's even a suggestion. So you will already have a lot of the content once you join the MA, once the MA opens, but even more importantly, you will be part of a very vibrant community way ahead. You'll be invited to all the annual gatherings, you will be with all the weekly webinars, you will meet like-minded people from all over the world the minute you join the certificate. So once you join the MA, you will be also already, hopefully, a pillar of our community.
we have a hand,
we'll
Yuval.
discuss the programs for each and cost. Let's talk about the cost for a second. The certificate program costs $3,900. Actually, for the participants of this webinar, there is a special discount of $500. You will get your coupon code in the chat right now. And also, at the end of this webinar, you'll get an email with your coupon code so you can use and get the $500 discount that you deserve for participating in this webinar. You can use on our website one-time payment, or you can use 10 equal payments for your convenience. The master program costs $17,700. The master's program, you pay per credit. So you pay as you progress with the program. When you start the program, you pay for the first credits of the first semester, for the first course that you're taking, and so on. Semester by semester, course by course, credit by credit, you pay per credit. The whole 17,700 is divided by all the credits. Altogether, I think it's 30 credits that will be divided into the courses that you will take. If you already paid for the certificate program, then all of that will be deducted. Whatever you paid for the certificate will be deducted from the price of the masters. I hope I was able to explain that. Tal, maybe take another hand.
Right. Don Morgan, the floor is yours.
How does fun relate to happiness?
That's a fun question. Thank you for that. So there is a real misunderstanding of what happiness is among most people today. So people generally equate happiness with fun. And they say, oh, I had so much fun on the beach. I was happy. Or I'm so happy having this ice cream. What they actually mean is that they experienced pleasure. And that's wonderful. And that's important. And that is part of happiness. It's part of happiness. Let's go back to the model, the SPIRE model. spiritual, physical, intellectual, relational, and emotional well-being. The emotional well-being part, that's about fun. And it's also about gratitude. And it's also about joy. And it's also about learning to deal with painful emotions. So I can lead a full and fulfilling, happy life and still experience sadness at times, or anger, or frustration, or anxiety. So fun, we look at it as part of happiness. It's certainly not all of happiness. Now, as we increase levels of happiness more and more, and as we climb up with all the ups and downs, as we climb up this continuum, the trajectory, we do experience more fun. We do become more playful. You know, Don, I have to just share this story, a very quick one. So 2008, I get a very large manuscript in the mail from a person by the name of Stuart Brown, who apparently was the North American president of the North American Play Association. And he wrote a book called Play, on the importance of play. And he sent me this manuscript. I had never met him before, but he sent it to me and said, do you mind reading it and maybe blurbing it if you like it? So I read the manuscript and I don't like it. I love it. And, you know, I write something very nice about it. And then I call up my friend, Shirley, who's a child psychologist. And I say to her the following. I said, you know, I just read this manuscript. You have to read it. It's going to come out soon, about play. But I'm really concerned. And she said, what are you concerned about? I said, David is our eldest son, who was 4 years old then, was born in 2004. I'm really concerned about David because, you know, David is a good kid. He's a nice kid, smart kid, but he's very serious. He doesn't play enough. And there is silence on the other side of the line. And she said, hello. I said, hello, Shirley, are you there? She said, yeah, I'm here. And then she asks me the following question. She says, Tal, do you play enough? And that was a rhetorical question. She knows me really well. I was not playing enough. And that was a life-changing question for me. Because I realized that I was, you know, as a parent, you lead by example. You know, I was very serious and didn't bring enough play or, Don, enough fun into my life. And I introduced a lot more fun and a lot more humor and a lot more play with the kids, which was life-changing for me. And I think I became a much better dad as a result of it. So fun is, and I became happier. So fun is an important part of happiness with an emphasis on part.
I was thinking of fun as being an escape from reality.
Could be. I mean, what is play? Play is make-believe. You know, it's, you know, we're playing as if. And that contributes to well-being because sometimes we want to, I guess, augment reality, you know, add to our reality. What is going to a movie? You know, why do we love movies? It's a sort of an escape. You know, if you're really into it, which is, you know, many people credit the movies of the 1930s in North America for helping Americans get through the Great Depression because they had a place of escape. Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Thank you. By the way, there's a lot of research on play and on fun. Yeah.
Well, a few questions from the chat. I will try to go over them real quick. No, you don't have to take the certificate in order to do the master's. You can start directly with the master's. As I said before, if you do the certificate, then you will be accredited for the master's for the amount you paid for the certificate, but you don't have to do the certificate before the master's. The live meetings within the certificate program are about an hour and a half. And usually there are around 100, 120 people joining each meeting, kind of like this meeting. Yes, you will be you will have exercise, you'll be exposed to exercises that will help you deepen the learning. The certificate program is actually has three important parts to it: the pre-recorded lectures, which is the main content of the certificate program, while we go over all the principles and all the theory. Then it has, on a weekly structure, it has the exercises, exactly to deepen the learning and to have practical aspects to it. And the other part, of course, we talked about it quite a lot, which is the live weekly webinar. On top of all that, it is covered with a very vibrant community, which we mentioned before, and an alumni and business club with many activities there. Our spouses, life partners are invited to the retreat. Yes, they are. Friends and family are always invited. You asked also about the live webinar. Well, if it sits next to you, it's okay. But this is on the webinars. You can submit papers in Spanish. Well, you have some exercises in the certificate program. Well, you can, of course, write your answers in Spanish. While in the master's program, it is a fully accredited US, as Tal said, the highest accreditation available master's degree, which requires a certain level of English. You should be the best English, but there is for international students who don't speak English, in order to get accepted to the master's program, you need to go through a TOEFL exam. The score with the TOEFL is not that high, it's not that complex, but still you will need to submit papers in English and be graded for them.
Yes.
How many months is the MA? Tal, the MA, well, we made some changes to it to make it more, we made it better. Now it will be 24 months. Correct me if I'm wrong. It will be 24
20 months. It's exactly 20 months long.
Full 2 years.
Sorry, Yuval, one second.
I was muted.
The MA is 20 months long. And
Okay.
The certificate is 1 year, but it can become as long as you want. And you wanted to say something else.
No, it's okay. I think I went through quite a lot of the questions on the side. I'm sorry if I didn't cover everything and if I missed something. So I apologize in advance, and please write to info@happinessstudies.academy, and we will of course answer all of your questions. Info@happinessstudies.academy. The certificate program, yes, it's available in languages. And there's already in the chat, you will find there the your coupon code and the link to registration. Pause a semester in the masters. Quite complex. You will need to wait for the next year semester to. You can do that, but you'll need to wait for the next year cohort in order to join the same semester that you are that you stopped at.
So can I talk a little bit about the coaching program? So the coaching program is for graduates from our certificate program. Now, I want to make this very, very clear, as I do to all of our students. When you graduate with a certificate program, you already have the information, the knowledge, the understanding, both the depth and the breadth of understanding to coach. You do not need another coaching program. The reason I created this coaching program is because there was a lot of requests from students who said, we want you to be more specific, to talk more about coaching. So I created this program, and some of our students are taking it, most are not. And again, it will be up to you. If you want to continue learning, if you enjoy learning, then by all means, take the coaching certificate. It's not necessary in addition to the certificate program. If you take the master's program, there is an explicit full-on coaching course that is part of the MA degree. So then you of course
Sorry,
don't need to
Tal,
take
I
it.
have some technical difficulties today, but I managed to get back. Sorry for that.
Good.
I think we pretty much covered everything, Tal.
Okay.
So I think we can, there's no more hands, and I think I went through all of your questions. I just left with saying thank you for being here. Thank you for taking the time and showing the interest in this program. And hopefully we'll see you in our next retreat in person or in next live webinar on Thursday. Thank you so much for being here. Maybe we'll end with, I don't know if we're ready with to show you a little bit a taste of what we have in our retreats and to see our community and to see how it looks like. We'll end with a video that we will share that will show some of our community interventions and in-person meetings. So again, thank you very much. info@happinessstudies.academy if I missed something. happinessstudies.academy to read all about the programs online, and also the way to apply for the master's or register for the certificate is there open for you. Thank you.
Thank you, and we hope to see you in our retreat, live webinar, or anywhere else, wherever you are around the world. Take good care. Bye-bye.
Tal is the master teacher of happiness.
I think he's so brilliant and wise and kind and humble. Everything that Tal teaches is based in science, that it's very interdisciplinary. And I love the fact that we draw on economics and science and psychology and literature and art and just everything as the holistic approach, and everything is interconnected.
You gave me this evidence-based, science-based tool, and I'm always grateful to you. Wherever you go, I'm going to follow you. That's it. You're not ever going to get rid of me.
Hello, everyone, and welcome. California, Mexico, China, Greece, Paris, Singapore, Indonesia, Ireland, Toronto, Argentina. Wow, that's amazing. HSA is not a certificate program. HSA is a community.
I signed up for the material, and the teacher, obviously world renowned and wonderful. What I didn't realize is that I was going to get a community that is so wonderful. There are people from all parts of the world, and it just makes for such a rich conversation. And of course, events like this where we get to meet in person just really solidifies that the community is made up of like-minded individuals, professionals within their own fields that are leaders and want to take this material that we're learning and spread it with the rest of the world. And the friendships made are what makes us all happier in the end.
When you find a community of people who want to live purposeful lives, then it just amplifies the experience that we're all here to share together.